He paused, thinking of his father and all the humans who had died during the long exile. We gave you a chance to leave in peace. Some of you took it and will live. Others chose to stay and fight, and they died for that choice. Remember this day. Remember what happens when you try to destroy a species that refuses to be destroyed. Hours later, the last Zephyrian ship had disappeared into hyperspace, carrying word of their defeat to the far corners of the galaxy. Earth's skies were clear of enemy vessels for the first time in 20 years. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of a space station in Earth orbit, looking down at the blue and green world he had been forced to abandon so long ago. Cities were burning, but they were burning with the fires of liberation, not conquest. General Chris Patterson joined him at the window. Both men looked older and wearier than when they had started this impossible journey. "It's over," Chris said. "This part is over," Jake replied. "Now comes the hard part. Rebuilding, healing, making sure this never happens again." Below them, Earth turned slowly in space. Scars from the occupation would take decades to heal. The psychological trauma of 20 years under alien rule would last even longer. But humanity had proven something important to itself and to the galaxy. They could be beaten. They could be conquered. They could be scattered to the stars and hunted almost to extinction, but they could not be destroyed. And when they returned, they would be stronger than ever. In the years that followed, the story of Earth's liberation spread throughout the galaxy. Other enslaved species heard how a primitive race had defeated the mighty Zephyrian Empire and began their own rebellions. The age of easy conquest was over. The Zephyrians, humbled by their defeat, eventually sued for peace. They returned the human prisoners they had taken and paid reparations for the damage they had caused. Some even chose to serve alongside humans as allies, having learned respect for a species they had once dismissed. But that is another story. This story ends with Commander Alex Carter walking through the ruins of New York City, where flowers were beginning to grow in the rubble. Human children played in the streets where alien troops had once marched. The sound of laughter filled air that had known only the sound of oppression for too long. The battle had been lost 20 years ago. But humanity had returned from the sky, and the war was won. The stars belonged to Earth once more. The final battle began when Commander Alex Carter led his boarding party through the twisted wreckage of the Zephyrian mothership's outer hull. Explosions had torn great holes in the alien vessel's armor, and the human soldiers moved through the dark corridors like shadows seeking revenge. "Stay together," Alex whispered into his radio. "These corridors are designed for creatures bigger than us. Watch the ceiling and side passages." Behind him, 20 of humanity's best soldiers followed with weapons ready. They had trained for this moment for years, practicing in mock-ups of alien ships. But training could never prepare them for the real thing. The mothership was massive, the size of a small city. Its walls were covered with strange symbols and pulsing lights. The air smelled of chemicals that made human eyes water. Everything about the place felt wrong and hostile. Outside, the space battle continued to rage. Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated the human fleet from the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as his ships destroyed the last of the Zephyrian outer defenses. "Status report," he ordered. Lieutenant Amy Stevens checked her displays. 70% of their fleet is destroyed or disabled. The survivors are trying to retreat, but our fast attack ships are cutting off their escape routes. Good. What about the surface? Our ground forces have taken control of most major cities. The resistance uprising is spreading faster than we hoped. The aliens are losing control everywhere. Jake allowed himself a small smile. After 20 years of planning, everything was working exactly as they had hoped. The Zephyrians, so used to easy victories, were crumbling under the pressure of fighting an enemy that refused to give up. Deep in the mothership, Alex and his team reached the command center. The doors were thick metal covered with alien writing, but human explosive charges made short work of them. The barriers blew inward with a roar that echoed through the ship. Supreme Fleet Commander Zexatar waited inside with his remaining officers. The alien leader was 8 feet tall, covered in scales that gleamed like green metal. His yellow eyes burned with hatred as he saw the human soldiers enter his sanctuary. "Impossible," Zexatar hissed in his own language, then switched to broken human speech. "You should be extinct." Dead. Gone. Alex removed his helmet and stared at the creature that had helped destroy his father's world. We're hard to kill, harder than you thought. Your species is weak, soft. We conquered you easily. You conquered us when we weren't ready, Alex replied. You won't make that mistake again. On Earth's surface, the liberation was spreading like a wave across the continents. Captain Lisa Turner, who had survived 20 years of hiding in underground bunkers, now stood in the ruins of what used to be the Planetary Defense Center. Human rebels and returning soldiers worked together to drive the aliens from their final strongholds. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson's voice crackled over her radio. Lisa, we've secured the New York spaceport. The aliens are surrendering in groups now. They're not used to losing. Copy that, Pete. Maya's people have taken the communication center in Mexico City. We're getting reports from all over the planet. The lizards are running. Maya Rodriguez herself was coordinating rebel activities from a command post in the ruins of Mexico City. For 20 years, she had dreamed of this moment. Now it was happening faster than she had dared hope. Freedom base to all cells. She broadcast to the resistance network. The aliens are retreating to their fortified zones. Don't let them regroup. Press the attack while they're confused. Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet was in full collapse. Fleet Commander Zextar, second in command, tried desperately to rally the surviving ships, but human tactics were too unpredictable. Every time the aliens formed a defensive line, the humans attacked from an unexpected direction. Captain Nina Roberts let another fighter sweep through the alien formations. Her quantum weapons cut through enemy ships like swords through paper. The Zephyrian pilots, trained to fight opponents who used their own rigid tactics, had no answer for human creativity. This is Ghost Leader, Nina reported. The enemy flagship is trying to break away from the main battle. Should we pursue? Negative, Admiral Jake Morrison replied. Let them run. Our boarding party is already inside their command ship. In the mothership's command center, the confrontation between human and alien leaders was reaching its climax. Supreme Fleet Commander Zextar towered over Alex Carter, his claws extended and his teeth showing in a snarl of rage. You think you have won? The alien roared. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. One defeat means nothing. It means everything, Alex said quietly. Because now the galaxy knows you can be beaten. Other species you've enslaved will see what we did here. They'll rise up too. Zextar lunged forward with killing claws extended, but Alex was ready. The human commander dodged aside and fired his weapon. The quantum beam struck the alien leader in the chest, and Zextar fell backward against his command console. The alien officers in the room stared in shock. Their supreme commander, the warrior who had never known defeat, lay dying at the feet of a human. It's over, Alex announced. Order all your ships to surrender immediately, or we'll destroy every last one of them. One by one, the surviving Zephyrian vessels began broadcasting surrender signals. The mighty fleet that had once conquered Earth was admitting defeat to the species they had tried to wipe out. Admiral Jake Morrison received the surrender messages with grim satisfaction, but he wasn't finished yet. He opened a communication, channeled to all remaining alien ships. This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Liberation Fleet, he announced. You have two choices. You can leave human space immediately and never return, or you can be destroyed where you float. You have 1 hour to decide. The response was immediate. Zephyrian ships throughout the solar system began moving toward the outer rim, eager to escape before the humans changed their minds. On Earth, Supreme General Mordock found himself trapped in his command bunker as human forces closed in from all sides. The alien who had ruled Earth for 20 years now cowered behind blast doors while his empire crumbled around him. General, his aide whispered, the fleet has surrendered. We have no reinforcements coming. Mordock stared at the tactical displays, showing red markers where human forces controlled territory that had been his just hours before. It was impossible. Humans were supposed to be broken, defeated. How had they become so strong? The blast doors exploded inward, and Maya Rodriguez walked through the smoke with a squad of resistance fighters behind her. The woman who had spent 20 years hiding in shadows now stood in the heart of alien power. Hello, Mordock, she said in perfect Zephyrian. Remember me? I was the little human girl you tried to have killed in the first days of the occupation. The alien general's eyes widened in recognition and fear. You should be dead. A lot of things should be different than they are, Maya replied. But humans have a habit of surviving when we're supposed to die. Now you get to find out what that feels like. Across Earth, the last pockets of alien resistance were surrendering or fleeing. Human flags were being raised over cities that had been occupied for 2 decades. Children who had never known freedom were seeing the sky without alien ships for the first time in their lives. In the mothership's command center, Alex Carter stood over the body of Supreme Fleet Commander Zextar and activated the alien communication system. His voice would be broadcast to every Zephyrian ship in the galaxy. "This is Commander Carter of the Human Military Forces," he announced. "Your Supreme Commander is dead. Your fleet is destroyed. Your occupation of Earth is ended. Spread the word to every corner of your empire. Humanity has returned, and we are not the same species you conquered 20 years ago." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like ghosts returning from the dead. One moment, the space around Earth was empty and peaceful. The next moment, it was filled with ships that should not exist. Captain Nina Roberts gripped the controls of her fighter as space twisted around her. Through her cockpit window, she could see Earth in the distance, still blue and green, but wrong somehow. Alien structures covered what used to be her home world's surface, like metal scars. "Ghost Squadron. This is Ghost Leader," she said into her radio. "All fighters, check in. Ghost 2, ready for battle. Ghost 3, weapons hot." One by one, her pilots reported ready. Nina felt her heart pounding as she looked at her targeting computer. After 20 years of preparation, the moment had finally come. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as human ships spread out across the solar system. Everything was going according to plan. So far, but the real test was about to begin. "Enemy response?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Stevens studied her sensors. 3 Zephyrian patrol ships moving to investigate. They don't seem alarmed yet. I don't think they believe what they're seeing. They will soon enough. Signal all ships. Operation Homecoming is now active. Light years away, the message reached every human vessel. Captain Tony Martinez launched his bombers toward the alien orbital stations. Colonel Pete Johnson's landing craft began their descent toward Earth's surface. Dr. Ashley Brown started broadcasting to the human resistance below. The first Zephyrian patrol ship to reach the human fleet was the Deathbringer, commanded by war leader Zakth. The alien officer stared at his display screens in confusion and growing alarm. "Impossible," he hissed through sharp teeth. "These are human ships, but humans are extinct." His second-in-command, a younger alien named Vorak, checked the readings again. "War leader, I count over 200 vessels. Some are larger than anything in our records." Zakth had been alive during the conquest of Earth 20 years ago. He remembered the desperate human ships that had run away like frightened animals. These new ships looked different, bigger, more dangerous. "Signal the home fleet," he ordered. "We have a situation." But before his message could be sent, Captain Nina Roberts and her fighters struck. The quantum disruptors that Dr. Kelly Shaw had designed tore through the Deathbringer's shields like they were made of paper. The alien ship exploded in a ball of green fire. "Scratch one lizard ship," Nina reported with satisfaction. "Ghost Squadron, let's find some more targets." The other 2 patrol ships tried to run, but Commander Alex Carter's battleship group was waiting for them. The UES Retribution's main guns spoke for the first time in battle, sending beams of pure energy across space. The fleeing alien vessels disappeared in twin explosions. In 3 minutes, the Zephyrian patrol force was completely destroyed. The humans had announced their return with fire and fury. On Earth's surface, Maya Rodriguez heard the explosions echoing across the sky. She grabbed her radio and sent the message she had been waiting 20 years to speak. "All resistance cells. This is Freedom Base. Our people have returned. I repeat, our people have returned. Begin Operation Rising Sun immediately." Across the planet, hidden humans emerged from their hiding places. In New York, Carlos led an attack on the alien communication center. In London, resistance fighters destroyed a Zephyrian supply depot. In Tokyo, humans who had pretended to be slaves for 20 years suddenly became warriors. The Zephyrian garrison commander on Earth, Supreme General Mordock, felt his comfortable world falling apart. Emergency signals poured in from every continent. His human slaves were rebelling. His patrol ships in space had gone silent. Something was terribly wrong. "Get me Fleet Commander Zextar!" he roared at his communications officer. The main Zephyrian fleet was stationed near Jupiter, confident in their dominance of the solar system. Fleet Commander Zextar was reviewing plans for his next conquest when the emergency signal reached him. "What do you mean, human ships?" he demanded. "There are no human ships. We destroyed them all 20 years ago." "Sir, we have visual confirmation. Large fleet, unknown technology, they've already destroyed 3 of our vessels." Zextar studied the tactical display that showed red dots spreading across his territory. There were so many human ships that they looked like a swarm of angry insects. Impossible. But if it's true... He turned to his fleet officers. "All ships, battle stations, set course for Earth. We will crush these surviving humans once and for all." The Zephyrian battle fleet was massive. Over 400 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything humans had possessed 20 years ago. They moved toward Earth like a tidal wave of destruction. But Admiral Jake Morrison had been expecting this response. As the alien fleet approached, human ships moved to intercept them. The two forces met in the space between Earth and Mars, and the real battle began. Captain Tony Martinez led the first attack run, his bombers diving toward the alien flagship. But instead of the devastating counterattack he expected, something strange happened. The Zephyrian defensive fire was confused and poorly aimed. Their ships moved in predictable patterns, just like Dr. Ashley Brown had said they would. "They're not adapting," Tony reported over the radio. "They're fighting like we're still using 20-year-old tactics." That was exactly what the humans had hoped for. While the Zephyrians had grown comfortable and lazy, humanity had been learning and evolving. The adaptive AI systems that Dr. Kevin Blake had designed began analyzing alien movements and predicting their next actions. Commander Alex Carter smiled as his ship's computer locked onto target after target. "Fire all weapons," he ordered. The UES Retribution's quantum disruptors punched through alien shields that had once seemed invincible. Zephyrian ships that had ruled space for centuries began exploding like fireworks. Fleet Commander Zextar watched, in growing horror as his supposedly superior fleet took massive casualties. Human weapons were cutting through his ships like they were made of thin metal. His tactics, perfected over hundreds of years of conquest, were useless against enemies who fought with wild creativity. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His tactical officer had no answer. The humans were using strategies that made no sense. They attacked from impossible angles. They used tricks and deceptions that no honorable warrior would consider. And somehow, it was working. On Earth, the rebellion was spreading like wildfire. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson's landing forces had reached the surface and were linking up with resistance fighters in every major city. The human slaves that the Zephyrians had thought were broken and defeated suddenly remembered how to fight. Dr. Ashley Brown's psychological warfare broadcasts filled the airwaves. "People of Earth," her voice echoed across the planet. "Your children have come home. The long night is ending. Fight! Fight for your freedom!" Supreme General Mordock tried to coordinate his planetary defenses, but everything was falling apart. His communication networks were being sabotaged by rebels. His supply lines were under attack. His troops, used to controlling terrified humans, found themselves facing organized resistance for the first time in 20 years. In space, the battle raged on. The Zephyrian fleet was larger, but the human fleet was smarter. Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated his forces like a master chess player, moving his ships to take advantage of every alien mistake. "Their left flank is weak," reported Intelligence Officer Rachel Morgan. "If we hit them there, we can break their formation." "Do it," Jake ordered. Captain Nina Roberts led the fighter attack that shattered the alien battle line. Her quantum-armed ships tore through enemy formations, leaving burning wreckage in their wake. Fleet Commander Zextar realized with growing despair that his mighty fleet was losing. These impossible humans with their impossible ships were defeating the forces that had conquered 100 worlds. "Signal the home worlds," he ordered. "Request immediate reinforcements." But his communications officer shook his head. "Sir, the humans are jamming our long-range transmitters. We can't reach the outer systems." Zextar felt fear for the first time in his long military career. They were cut off, outnumbered, and outfought. The species he had thought extinct was about to destroy him. The tide of battle was turning. Human ships pressed their advantage as alien formations crumbled. On Earth's surface, cities were falling back into human hands. The rebellion that had started in secret bunkers was becoming a planetary revolution. The impossible was happening. Humanity was winning. Deep in the asteroid belt, Chief Engineer Sam Turner stood before the biggest ship ever built by human hands. The UES Retribution stretched for 2 miles from front to back, its black metal hull covered in weapons and armor that gleamed under the work lights. "She's beautiful," said Commander Alex Carter, running his hand along the ship's side. "How many people can she carry?" 5,000 crew members, Sam replied with pride in his voice, plus fighters, bombers, and landing craft. This ship can take on anything the Zephyrians have. Around them, workers swarmed over the massive vessel like ants on a hill. Some were welding new armor plates. Others were loading weapons that had never been fired in battle. Everyone knew this ship would either save humanity or die trying. Dr. Kelly Shaw climbed up the ramp to join them. She carried a tablet full of technical data that made her eyes shine with excitement. "The tests are complete. Everything works, exactly like we hoped." "Show me," Alex said. Kelly pulled up a video on her tablet. It showed a test of their new quantum disruptor hitting a mock-up of a Zephyrian shield. The alien barrier flickered and died like a candle in the wind. "Their shields won't stop us anymore," she explained. "We've also upgraded our own armor with materials we stole from their wrecked ships. We're faster, stronger, and smarter than we were 20 years ago." Sam nodded toward a group of technicians working on strange-looking weapons. "The adaptive AI systems are the real game changer. Our computers will learn from every battle and get better as we fight. The Zephyrians have never faced anything like that." Alex felt a chill of excitement run down his spine. For his entire life, he had heard stories about how powerful the aliens were, how their technology was so advanced that humans couldn't hope to match it. Now, for the first time, they had weapons that might actually work. In another part of the ship, intelligence, Officer Rachel Morgan was setting up the most important room on the entire vessel. The war room looked like something from a science fiction movie, with screens covering every wall and computers humming quietly in the background. "This is where we'll coordinate the entire battle," she explained to a group of officers. "We'll have real-time intelligence from our spies on Earth, tactical data from our scouts, and communication links to every human ship in the fleet." Captain Nina Roberts, one of their best fighter pilots, studied the displays showing Earth's current defenses. "How many ships are they keeping in orbit?" "About 300, according to our latest count," Rachel replied. "But they're spread out. They're not expecting an attack. Most of their forces are on the ground, keeping our people under control." "That's their first mistake," Nina said with a cold smile. "They think we're still running scared." Lieutenant Colonel Pete Johnson was in the ship's vehicle bay, checking the landing craft that would carry human soldiers back to Earth's surface. The transports were sleek and fast, designed to slip past enemy defenses and land troops where they were needed most. "Remember," he told his squad leaders, "we're not just fighting to win. We're fighting to free our people. Every human still alive down there is depending on us." The soldiers nodded grimly. Most of them had never seen Earth, but they had grown up on stories of green forests and blue oceans. They were ready to die for a world they had never known. Meanwhile, Dr. Ashley Brown was working on something the Zephyrians would never expect: psychological warfare. She had spent years studying recordings of alien communications, learning how they thought and what they feared. "They're not used to losing," she explained to her team. "For hundreds of years, they've conquered every species they've met. They think they're unbeatable. When we start winning, it's going to shock them." She showed them a broadcast system that would send messages directly to Earth. "When the battle starts, we'll tell our people that help has arrived. The humans still alive down there will rise up and fight. The Zephyrians won't be ready for that." In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Kevin Blake was preparing for the worst. He had seen the reports from Earth about what the aliens were doing to human prisoners: medical experiments, torture, worse things that made him sick to think about. "We need to be ready to treat injuries we've never seen before," he told his medical staff. "The Zephyrians use weapons that damage both body and mind. Some of our people might not even remember who they are." The medical team worked quietly. preparing equipment and medicines. They knew that victory would come at a terrible price. Above them all on the command bridge, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the final preparations. Through the windows, he could see dozens of other ships getting ready for battle. Not just the big battleships, but smaller vessels, too. Fighters, bombers, supply ships, and hospital ships. The entire remaining human fleet was preparing for the most important battle in history. General Chris Patterson joined him at the observation window. Both men looked older than their years, worn down by 2 decades of planning and preparation. "Are we ready?" Chris asked. "As ready as we'll ever be," Jake replied. "We've got good ships, good weapons, and good people. The question is whether it will be enough." "It has to be. We don't get a second chance." Jake activated the ship's communication system. His voice would be heard on every human vessel in the fleet. "This is Admiral Morrison speaking. In 24 hours, we begin our journey home. For 20 years, we've lived in exile. We've hidden in the darkness while our enemies enjoyed the light of our sun. We've watched our people suffer while we prepared for this moment." He paused, looking out at the ships that would carry humanity's hopes. "Tomorrow, we remind the galaxy who we are. We are the children of Earth, and we're coming home. The Zephyrians think they've won. They think humans are broken and defeated. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The communications system carried cheers from every ship in the fleet. 20 years of anger and pain and loss were about to be unleashed on their enemies. In her secret base on Earth, Maya Rodriguez heard the transmission through her hidden radio. For the first time in years, tears ran down her face. Not tears of sadness, but tears of joy. "Carlos," she whispered into her communicator, "pass the word to all resistance cells. Our people are coming home. Get ready to fight." All across Earth, in hidden bunkers and secret rooms, the message spread like wildfire. The humans who had survived 20 years of alien rule looked up at the sky with new hope in their hearts. The Zephyrians, comfortable in their conquest, noticed nothing. Their sensors showed empty space beyond the solar system. Their computers reported no threats. Their commanders planned for another day of easy rule over their human slaves. They had no idea that death was coming for them from the stars. In the asteroid belt, the human fleet made final preparations. Weapons were loaded. Armor was checked. Prayers were said. Letters were written to loved ones who might never read them. Commander Alex Carter sat in his private quarters, looking at an old photograph of Earth that his father had saved from the evacuation. The blue and green world looked peaceful and beautiful in the picture. Soon, it would be a battlefield. He had been born in exile, but he was going to die fighting for home. The countdown began. 24 hours until humanity's return. 24 hours until the galaxy learned that some species could not be conquered. 24 hours until the Zephyrians paid for their crimes. 20 years had passed since the day Earth fell. 20 long years of hiding, building, and planning. Colonel Amy Stevens walked through the underground factory on New Haven, watching workers build the weapons that would take them home. The hidden planet was perfect for their needs. Thick asteroid fields hid it from enemy scouts. Strange magnetic storms made their sensors useless. To the Zephyrians, this corner of space was empty and worthless. "How many ships do we have ready?" Amy asked. Dr. Kevin Blake, the chief scientist of their secret project. Kevin wiped sweat from his forehead with a dirty cloth. He had been working for 16 hours straight, like most days. 47 combat-ready vessels. The new Titan-class battleships are almost finished. Just 3 more weeks. Amy nodded. It had taken them 15 years to figure out how Zephyrian technology worked. 5 more years to build weapons that could fight back. The process had been slow and painful, but it was almost over. In the training facility across the valley, Captain Tony Martinez put new pilots through their daily exercises. These young men and women had never seen Earth. They were born on colony ships or hidden bases like this one, but they fought like their parents had died on humanity's homeworld. "Remember," Tony told his squadron, "the Zephyrians are bigger and stronger than us. Their ships have better armor, but they think in straight lines. They follow rules. We don't." The pilots nodded. They had heard this speech many times, but it was true. The enemy fought like machines. Humans fought like wild animals when they had to. Lieutenant Pete Johnson raised his hand. "Captain, what if their new ships have different weapons?" "Then we adapt," Tony replied. "That's what humans do best. We change, we learn, we survive." Ors. The other side of New Haven, Maya Rodriguez sat in a dark room full of computers and radio equipment. For 20 years, she had been talking to humans still alive on Earth. The conversations were dangerous. If the Zephyrians found the hidden transmitters, everyone would die. "Freedom Base, this is Raven's Nest," came a whisper through the static. Maya knew the voice. It was Carlos, a resistance fighter in what used to be Mexico City. "Raven's Nest, this is Freedom Base. What's your status?" "The lizards are building something big in the old harbor. Looks like a weapon. Huge energy readings. Our people are scared." Maya wrote down the information. The Zephyrians had been building strange machines all over Earth. Nobody knew what they were for, but they looked dangerous. "Stay hidden, Carlos. Help is coming." "When? People are starting to lose hope. It's been 20 years. Maya closed her eyes. She had been asking the same question. When would they be ready? When could they go home? "Soon," she said. "I promise, soon." In the main command center, General Chris Patterson studied reports from all over the galaxy. Small human groups were scattered across 100 worlds. Most were still hiding. Some had been found and destroyed. A few had grown strong enough to fight back. The door opened, and Admiral Jake Morrison walked in. He looked older now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes. The weight of command had been hard on him. "The Ghost Squadron is back from their mission," Jake reported. "They hit 3 more Zephyrian supply ships. No losses on our side." "Good. What did they learn?" "The enemy is getting lazy. They don't expect attacks anymore. They think we're all dead or hiding forever." Jake sat down heavily in a chair. "They're wrong about that." Chris smiled for the first time in weeks. "Yes, they are. How are the new recruits?" "Angry." "That's good. Angry soldiers fight harder." Jake pulled up a list on his tablet. "We have volunteers from every surviving colony. More people want to fight than we have ships for. We'll need them all. The intelligence reports from Earth are getting worse. The Zephyrians are doing something to our people. Experiments, torture, some kind of biological research." Jake's hands made fists. After 20 years, the anger was still fresh, still burning hot. "How long until we're ready?" 3 months. Maybe 2 if we push hard. Then we push hard. Across the base, Dr. Kelly Shaw worked in her laboratory on humanity's secret weapon. Not ships or guns, but something the aliens had never expected. She had been studying Zephyrian psychology for 15 years, learning how they thought, how they made decisions, how they could be beaten. "Computer, run Simulation 47, she said. The screen showed a battle between human and Zephyrian fleets. The human ships were outnumbered 3-1, but they moved in patterns the aliens couldn't predict. They attacked from unexpected directions. They used tricks and lies and confusion. The simulation ended with human victory." "Success rate?" Kelly asked. 73%, the computer replied. "It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. In real war, you never got perfect odds." In the deepest part of the base, Commander Alex Carter worked on the project that would make their return possible. Alex was Admiral Carter's son, born just before Earth fell. He had grown up hearing stories about the blue and green world his father had been forced to abandon. "The quantum disruptors are ready for testing," Alex told his team. "If this works, we can punch through their shields like they were made of paper." The test chamber was thick metal and concrete. Inside, a captured Zephyrian shield generator hummed with alien energy. Nothing human-made had ever broken through one before. Alex pressed the button. The quantum disruptor fired a beam of twisted light. Where it hit the alien shield, reality seemed to bend and crack. Sparks flew from the generator. Then, suddenly, the shield collapsed. The room was silent for a moment. Then everyone started cheering. "Send word to the general," Alex said. "Tell him we're ready to go home." At the same time, Intelligence Officer Rachel Morgan was breaking into Zephyrian computer systems from halfway across the galaxy. She had spent 10 years learning their language and their technology. Now she could read their files and steal their secrets. What she found made her hands shake. The Zephyrians were planning to expand their conquest. They had found 3 more human colonies and were preparing to attack. If the aliens moved first, thousands more humans would die. Rachel grabbed her communicator. "General Patterson, we have a problem. The lizards know about the New Texas colony. They're sending ships there in 6 weeks. Chris Patterson's voice came back immediately. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. I'm looking at their battle plans right now." Chris was quiet for a moment. Then, "Signal all commanders. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. It looks like our timeline just got shorter." In the meeting room, humanity's leaders gathered around a table covered with star maps and battle plans. They had hoped for more time to prepare, more ships to build, more weapons to test. But time had run out. The enemy was moving. Soon, they would find and destroy the remaining human colonies. "We go in 4 weeks," General Patterson announced. "Ready or not, we're going home." Jake Morrison looked around the room at the faces of his friends. Some were excited, some were scared. All were determined. "It's been 20 years, he said. 20 years of hiding in the dark like rats. 20 years of watching our people suffer. 20 years of planning our revenge." He stood up and pointed at the star map showing Earth. "It's time to remind the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy humanity. We don't just survive, we come back stronger, and we make our enemies pay for what they've done." The room erupted in cheers. Outside, word spread through the base. Like wildfire, humanity was going home. The long exile was almost over, but first they had a war to win. Jake Morrison gripped the metal rail of the ship's bridge as another explosion shook the UES Liberty. Through the wide window, he watched human ships burn like falling stars against the black space. Red and orange flames danced where his friends had been just moments before. "Sir, the Defense Station 3 is gone," reported Lieutenant Amy Stevens from her control panel. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Captain Rogers and his entire crew." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Captain Rogers had been his friend for 15 years. They had served together on 3 different ships. Now Rogers was just space dust, along with 2,000 other good people. The enemy ships looked like giant metal spiders crawling across the darkness. The Zephyrians had come from beyond the far stars with more ships than anyone had ever seen. Their weapons cut through human armor like hot knives through butter. Their shields bounced back every shot the humans fired. "How many ships do we have left?" Jake asked. Amy checked her screen. 43, sir. We started with 300. Jake felt his heart sink. 300 ships had been Earth's entire space fleet. The best ships humanity had ever built. The pride of Earth's military. Now only 43 remained, and most of those were damaged. On the planet below, Captain Lisa Turner's voice came through the radio from the Planetary Defense Center. Static made her words hard to hear, but Jake understood enough. The aliens were landing everywhere. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Giant ships were dropping from the sky like metal rain. "They're in the streets," Lisa said. Her voice was tired and scared. "Millions of them. Our ground forces can't stop them. They have weapons we've never seen before." Jake looked at the tactical display on his screen. Red dots showed enemy ships. There were so many red dots that they covered the entire display. The few blue dots that showed human ships looked tiny and alone. Lieutenant Tony Martinez ran onto the bridge. His uniform was torn and he had blood on his face from a head wound. "Sir, we just lost the Missouri and the Texas. Direct hits to their engines. The Sacramento is trying to help survivors, but the aliens are closing in fast." Another explosion rocked the Liberty. The lights went out for 3 seconds before the emergency power kicked in. In those 3 seconds of darkness, Jake made his decision. "Get me Admiral Carter on the comm," he ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Ben Carter looked older than his 50 years. His gray hair was messy and his eyes were red from no sleep. Behind him, Jake could see the chaos of the command ship's bridge. "Admiral, we can't win this fight," Jake said. The words hurt to speak, but they were true. "We're outnumbered 50 to 1. Maybe more." "I know," Admiral Carter replied. His voice was quiet and sad. "I've been watching the reports from all sectors. We lost the outer defense ring in the first hour. The middle ring held for 3 hours. Now they're breaking through the inner ring. What are your orders, sir?" Admiral Carter was quiet for a long moment. Jake could hear the sounds of battle in the background, people shouting orders, alarms ringing, the deep boom of weapons firing. "Evacuation, Protocol 7, the Admiral finally said. "All remaining ships are to retreat beyond the outer rim. Immediate departure." Jake felt his stomach drop. Evacuation Protocol 7 meant leaving Earth behind. It meant abandoning billions of people. It meant running away while their home burned. "Sir, there are still people down there," Jake said. "Civilians, children. We can't just leave them." "If we stay, we all die," Admiral Carter said. "If we leave, at least some humans survive. Someone has to carry on. Someone has to remember what happened here." Lisa Turner's voice came through the radio again. This time she was shouting, "They're breaking through the defense center walls! I can see them in the hallways! Oh God, they're huge!" The radio went silent. Jake stared at the screen showing Earth, the blue and green planet he had called home for 35 years. The world where he was born, where his parents were buried, where his sister lived with her 2 children. "All ships," Admiral Carter's voice echoed through the comm system. "This is Admiral Carter. We are implementing Evacuation Protocol 7. All vessels are to jump to hyperspace immediately. Destination, Rally Point Zebra. May God forgive us. 1. By 1, the remaining human ships began to disappear. Bright flashes of light marked each ship as it entered hyperspace. The fleet that had once been humanity's pride was running away like scared animals. Jake watched the tactical display as the blue dots vanished. Soon, only the Liberty and a few other ships remained. The red dots of enemy ships moved closer, like wolves closing in for the kill. "Sir, we need to go now," Amy said. "The aliens are targeting us." Jake took one last look at Earth. From space, it looked peaceful and beautiful. But he knew that down on the surface, cities were burning. People were dying. The Zephyrians were taking everything. "Jump," he ordered. The Liberty's engines hummed to life. Space twisted around them like a bent mirror. Then, in a flash of white light, Earth disappeared. They were alone in the darkness between stars. Behind them, humanity's home world fell to the enemy. Ahead of them lay only empty space and uncertain hope. Jake slumped in his command chair. They had lost everything: their world, their families, their civilization. The war was over before it had really begun. But they were alive. And sometimes being alive was enough to start over. The surviving ships of humanity drifted through space, carrying with them the memory of Earth and the dream of someday returning home. They did not know it would take 20 years. They did not know they would come back stronger than ever. All they knew was that they had survived. And that was the first step toward revenge.